Have you ever noticed your investment account growing slower than you expect? You check your statements and wonder where the returns went. You swear you followed the plan, but the numbers still disappoint. You are not alone in this feeling. My name is Saul, and I spend too much time thinking about money and the hidden mechanics behind investing. This video is about the invisible fees that eat your investments slowly and surely. I want to show you how small percentages become large leaks over time. I will explain the fees, tell you stories I have seen, and give practical steps you can use tomorrow. Think of this like finding holes in a boat you have been rowing for years. Fixing one hole does not feel dramatic at first. Repair enough of them, and suddenly your boat crosses the ocean without sinking. The first quiet fee I want to talk about is the expense ratio hidden in many mutual funds. That number appears small on paper, but compounds against you year after year. A fund charging 1% will cost you much more over decades than a single market downturn. Investors rarely calculate how much 1% erases from compound growth over 20 years. When you simulate the math, it becomes painfully obvious why lower costs matter so much. Another fee that few people consider is the bid and ask spread you pay when buying or selling securities. This spread functions like an invisible tax on each trade you make. Illiquid assets can have spreads large enough to erase short-term gains quickly. Day trading or frequent rebalancing increases the toll of these spreads on your portfolio. Then there is payment for order flow, which some brokerages use to monetize your trades. You might think commissions are gone, but the broker still earns by routing your trade to specific market makers. This practice can widen spreads subtly and reduce the quality of execution without you noticing. Some funds charge what are called 12b-1 fees, which pay for marketing and distribution. These fees are buried in fund documents and show up as more modest returns over time. Investors who chase fancy marketing may be funneling money into advertising rather than higher performance. Investment advisory services may bundle so-called wrap fees that cover trading and advice in a single charge. A wrap fee can feel convenient until you compare it to unbundled alternatives that cost far less. Custodial and administrative fees at brokerage accounts are another overlooked drain on savings. Small maintenance fees taken annually can aggregate into thousands of dollars over a working lifetime. Some international investments carry foreign tax withholding and currency conversion costs that silently reduce returns. When you buy foreign stocks, you pay a spread on the currency conversion that is rarely highlighted in statements. Rebalancing costs are real even when you do not see a line item in your report. Turning a portfolio to match a target allocation triggers trading costs and potential taxable events for taxable accounts. High turnover in actively managed funds increases these hidden costs through trading expenses and realized capital gains. Mutual funds with excessive turnover may generate taxable distributions, even if the fund did not perform well. Closely related is slippage, which occurs when the price at which your order fills differs from the intended price. Slippage is common in volatile markets and in thinly traded instruments, and it eats returns silently. Another subtle fee is the spread between retail and institutional pricing that many retail investors never receive. Instruments offered by some platforms come with inferior pricing that only large institutional clients enjoy. Front-end and back-end loads on certain mutual funds are classic examples of explicit but often misunderstood costs. A front-end load reduces the amount actually invested the moment you buy the fund. A back-end load penalizes you when you sell within a certain period and encourages longer-term holding artificially. Overlapping fees are a trap when you own multiple funds that charge similar management and administrative payments. Owning many funds that all buy and sell the same securities can cause you to pay duplicate costs indefinitely. Pay close attention to the fund prospectuses and the overlap of holdings across vehicles. Index funds and exchange-traded funds generally reduce many of these costs, but they are not fee-free. Even passive funds carry expense ratios and bid-ask spreads you should examine closely. Some newer funds advertise zero commissions while relying on securities lending revenue and other indirect monetization. Securities lending generates income for fund providers but increases counterparty risk and can complicate net returns in certain markets. Brokerage promotions that promise free trades may be offset by other monetization pathways you need to understand. Another vector is advisory conflicts of interest, where financial advice pushes you toward higher fee products. Commission-based recommendations can hide the true cost of ownership and misalign incentives with your long-term goals. Advisors who receive referral payments or revenue share from product providers may subtly steer clients away from cheaper alternatives. Robo-advisor platforms can reduce many human conflicts but still layer algorithm fees and underlying fund expenses. Always ask about the full stack of fees, not just the headline advisory charge. Taxes are not a fee in the traditional sense, but they function like one for investors in taxable accounts. Mutual funds that distribute short-term capital gains or dividends increase your annual tax bill and reduce after-tax returns. Tax inefficiencies inside a fund are invisible until you calculate tax-adjusted returns over multiple years. Municipal bonds offer tax advantages for certain investors, but also come with liquidity and call risk that can cost you unexpectedly. Structured products, annuities, and other packaged financial instruments often embed complex fee schedules that reward the issuer. Commissions, mortality and expense fees, and surrender penalties are layered inside many annuity products. These features can make the products unattractive for investors who do not need the specific guarantees offered. Another frustrating hidden cost is poor trade execution. When you use less reputable brokers or platforms, order routing, delayed confirmations, and errors create losses that seldom appear labeled as fees on your statement. Account closure fees and transfer fees are petty, but real expenses when you change custodians or move money between accounts. Some retirement account custodians charge inactivity fees that nibble away at small balances over time. Financial products marketed to convenience often include subscription-like fees for premium features that do not correlate with performance. Quarterly account statements that bury expenses in tiny fonts are part of the problem of obscured costs. Regulators require disclosure, but the language is often dense, and the totals are spread across many line items. Educating yourself to read these documents is the most powerful defense against slow leakage of your wealth. Practical steps can dramatically reduce these invisible drains if you act deliberately and methodically. First, always compare expense ratios across similar investment vehicles and prefer lower-cost options when appropriate. Second, minimize turnover and avoid frequent trading unless you have a clear edge and a tested strategy. Third, consolidate accounts where possible to reduce duplicate custodial and administrative fees. Fourth, ask your broker or advisor to disclose order routing practices and any third-party payments they receive. Fifth, favor tax-efficient funds and consider tax loss harvesting where it makes sense for your tax situation. Sixth, avoid products with complex surrender schedules, excessive commissions, or unclear revenue-sharing agreements. Seventh, always check the bid-ask spread before entering a trade and avoid trading thinly traded securities without reason. Eighth, use commission-free trading carefully and review the platform monetization model behind the free trades. Ninth, read fund prospectuses and shareholder reports to understand turnover and taxable distribution histories. 10th, think critically about convenience fees for banking and brokerage conveniences that quietly reduce your capital. Personal anecdotes help make these abstract issues real and relatable. I once worked with a client who believed they were investing cheaply because they used a popular platform with no commissions. They had forgotten to examine the expense ratios and the payment for order flow arrangements that applied to their trades. After a detailed review, we found that their effective cost was much higher than the advertised zero commissions suggested. Their annual net return improved substantially after we moved similar holdings to lower-cost funds and a different custodian. Another person I know bought a mutual fund with a slick marketing campaign and paid a front-end load that reduced their invested amount instantly. They felt betrayed when they realized the fee had reduced the power of compound returns over decades. A small upfront drag changes the trajectory of your portfolio significantly over a working life. Humor helps when explaining how ridiculous some of these fees are in practice. Imagine paying for a cruise where they charge you to step onto the ship and also tax your coffee twice during the voyage. The mental image is absurd, but it mirrors how some financial products are structured. Practical examples clarify where the pain points are and what to do next. Calculate the total expense ratio and trading cost per year for each account and multiply by projected years to retirement. Scenario analysis like this exposes which accounts are quietly devouring your returns. Implementing a low-cost plan often requires modest behavioral changes more than complicated financial engineering. Set up automatic contributions into low-cost, tax-efficient vehicles, and remove friction from the saving process. Automated rebalancing inside a tax-efficient wrapper can reduce taxable events and preserve compounding power. Negotiate with advisors and brokers about fee reductions and do not accept vague answers to direct questions about costs. Transparency is a reasonable expectation and a baseline requirement for any professional relationship in finance. Keep an eye on platform promotions and understand that free offers often have strings attached. When you see a too good to be true marketing message, stop and analyze the full economics behind the offer. Remember that saving on fees is one of the single highest levers you have to improve net returns. If you reduce average annual fees by 0.5%, you could gain thousands of dollars over decades due to compounding. Small percentage improvements are multiplicative over long horizons, and they are under your control more than market returns are. Finally, cultivate a skeptical habit when reviewing new financial products and advice that sounds overly confident. Ask for historical distribution data, turnover statistics, and concrete examples of all the costs you will bear as an investor. Demand plain language explanations and a complete fee schedule before you commit capital. Investing is as much about preserving the gains you make as it is about chasing higher returns. Hidden fees are the silent predators that erode your financial future without dramatic headlines. Fixing fees is boring work, but it is the most effective action you can take to improve your long-term outcomes. Start today by reviewing one account and one fund at a time and calculate the true cost you are paying. Make incremental changes and enjoy the compounding benefits of lower fees over the course of your investing lifetime. Your future self will thank you for noticing what most people ignore until it is too late. Take control of the small leaks and watch how your wealth vessel begins to sail smoother and faster. This is not glamorous advice, but it is the most practical and powerful I can offer. Now go check your statements and find the tiny numbers that are costing you the most. Then come back and tell me what you found and what you plan to change. Thank you for listening and for choosing to think more intentionally about the money you work to build. Start making these changes today and watch the slow leaks in your investments disappear over time.